This is The Sports Life.
There he did it! Pitch, base hit into right center field. Parker Pico will score, and the Spartan dugout empties. They are mobbing Randy Seymour between first and second base.
How about it? Randy Seymour with a line shot into right center field. Woo!
Victory for MSU.
And it was, and welcome into the Sports Life. We'll team in here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, the significance of that play was that got Michigan State into the Big Ten tournament. The call, Scott Moore and Jim Cotter. So it's nice to be dramatic.
That's right. Do it in style, right? Keep the people around.
Well, this show is a special one for Dalton and I, as we're going to help, along with you, celebrate the Memorial Day weekend. And this will be our salute to the men and women of the armed services. And one of the features we're going to bring to you today is about former colleague of mine, Gus Kanakis, who served in World War II.
That's going to be a lot of fun to get to later on. But we do also have some more things. One does also have a Michigan State flavor to it. One of the leaders in the MSU Athletics Department, LaRonda Burley, joined us to talk a little bit about the prisoner of war chairs dedicated all around Michigan State's campus. It'll be great to learn a little bit more about that and the Spartan salute. But also, we'll get to hear from Levi Thompson, who is the founder of Hawkeye Heaven. If you're an Iowa fan, I'm sure you've heard of it. It's one of the most popular fan pages covering Iowa athletics there on Facebook. And it all started while he was serving overseas and trying to find a way to connect Iowa athletics to military personnel. It blossomed from there, but that's going to be a great story to hear later on, too.
Okay, we are saluting the year 2011 in the Big Ten, so Dalton, take it away.
That's right. So for 2011, let's start off with the football plays, right? We got some football, we got some basketball for you. Let's start with football, and this one goes under the lights at the Big House. 2011, Michigan meets Notre Dame. The Wolverines were trailing late, 24-21, with about 90 seconds left. They put together an improbable drive to have a miracle under the lights. Here's how it sounded with Frank Beckman.
Here's Denard scrambling around. He's firing. Wide open. Gallen up the sideline. Down in Notre Dame territory. Cuts to his left. 35, 30. Racing to the far sideline. 20, 15. Out of bounds with 8 seconds to go. Do you believe that? Denard back to throw from the 16. Got to throw in a hurry. Lobs it up in the end zone to Roundtree. He adjusts to the ball. He's interfered with. He makes the catch. Touchdown, Michigan, with 2 seconds to play.
And the Wolverines win it. The call by the great one, Mr. Frank Beckman. It's always fun to hear those clips, Dalton, when you hear these names like Frank mentioned. Like, wow, how good was that guy? And what's he doing now?
Right. Well, and it's amazing, too. My memory of that miracle under the lights is the uniforms those two teams are wearing. And it certainly delivered in a classic of a game where Michigan ends up with the win there in Ann Arbor as well. That's not the only thrilling finish the Big Ten football season had seen throughout that year. Michigan State had one of the greatest finishes of all time, hosting Wisconsin at Spartan Stadium. It's tied up 31 all, and Kirk Cousins will drop back and throw what is known now around East Lansing as the rocket play to knock off the Wisconsin Badgers.
Badgers have 3 defenders back inside the 5-yard line. Kirk rolls to his right. Finally sends a long spiral to the end zone. Tapped
he got it!
And caught at the goal line. Caught at the goal line.
He got over, George.
Are they going to rule this short?
Keith Nickel.
Are they going to rule this short?
The tip ball, exactly like I explained. Keith Nickel got it, and I believe he crossed the goal line, George.
Keith Nickel did pull it down. Fought his way to the goal line. Looked like he twisted his way in. It looks like he twisted his way in. He broke the plane and then was pushed out.
After further review, the runner did cross the goal line.
There it is! There it is!
Spartans win!
Unbelievable!
Touchdown, MSU!
It couldn't have gone any other way, George. It couldn't have gone any other way.
What a finish!
What a finish it was. George Blaha and Jimmy Miller on that call. And I often thought that if the officials would have ruled it wasn't good, they would have never got out in that stadium in one piece. So I think for their own health, they made the right call. But the other interesting quote from Kirk Cousins after that game when he caught up with the Wisconsin quarterback Russell Wilson, he said to him, "We'll meet again."
Well, and that sets the stage because they did meet again in the first ever Big Ten championship game that was held in Indianapolis, and what a thriller this one was. But this time, the Spartans get the short end, and Wisconsin wins the football game in the Big Ten title. Here's what it sounded like with the Badgers hoisting the crown.
Wilson in the shotgun, ball to his left. Wilson takes the snap, back to throw, looking, flush to his left, sets, throws, deep right side, and it is caught by Duckworth inside the 10 and down to the 7-yard line. First down, gonna go. Wisconsin at the Spartan 7. And for the second straight year, the Wisconsin Badgers are headed to Pasadena and the Rose Bowl as the Badgers defeat Michigan State 42-39. And there's a party for Badger fans in Indianapolis tonight.
Well, I think it's kind of a small example of the same thing during the course of the season. We were hitting on all strides. We had those rough 2 games and bounced back the way we did. Same thing in today's game. Played well out of the gate. Second quarter didn't go well, and then third and fourth quarter persevered. And give a lot of credit to Michigan State, but this is a great one for the Badgers. We got a great team picture with the trophy and the roses, and to win it out right now, so there's no little chitter-chatter about who should have won, all this jazz. Wisconsin's going because they won it.
Brett Bielema, the head coach of the Badgers at the time, and they did win it. Great call by Matt LePay, by the way, the voice of the Badgers. But it was interesting, if you didn't care, Dalton, who won that game, was that one of the greatest games ever or what? That thing was unbelievable.
What a way to kick off Big Ten championship games, right? I mean, just a classic. What a phenomenal finish that was. But hey, let's transition over to basketball for a moment because one of the better shots that you can remember came from 2011 in Big Ten basketball in a non-conference game against number 1 Kentucky. It was hosted at Assembly Hall, and Christian Watford sent the Wildcats, who were unbeaten, home with this shot.
Here comes Riddell Jones. 3 seconds, 2 seconds. Riddell all the way outside to Watford. 3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! Christian Watford with a 3! And the Hoosiers have knocked off the number 1 ranked Kentucky Wildcats! Unbelievable!
Oh, man, it's indescribable. I mean, I don't even really know what happened. I mean, I couldn't really tell you, but all I know was I saw Riddell driving. I just tried to loop behind him, and he did a great job at finding me, and I knocked down the shot.
Oh, he knocked it down all right. What a call by Don Fisher, the classic voice of Indiana. You know, it's interesting. There's always a great debate about your opponents in the non-conference. Mm-hmm. And one of the great things about this game, besides the game, right, you had Kentucky at Indiana, a home-and-home deal. So the home fans get to see the best. They didn't go to some neutral site place. And this is a great, I know it's 2011, this clip, but what a great reason to have these kind of games, home and home, and really treat the college fans of the teams that they follow in their own place to something like this.
I co-sign on that one, partner. And I think, honestly, Indiana-Kentucky is one of the best non-conference rivalries the sport has. I would love to see that come back. It's something both fan bases really clamor for. Hopefully that makes an appearance. But 2011, this one wasn't known so much for the thrilling ending like so many of the other clips we've played. But on 11-11-11, Veterans Day 2011, Michigan State played against North Carolina in the Carrier Classic game. And what we're going to bring from you isn't necessarily a highlight from the contest, but afterwards, it's Will Tiemann, actually, yourself, speaking with Gus Ganakis, who we're going to be highlighting later on in this show for his service overseas, and what the game's significance in that moment truly meant.
You know, the other thing is, if there ever was a basketball game that there was no loser, it was this one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is a moment when none of us will forget. And like I said earlier, the memory of this game will fade, but the memory of the event and day will not, ever.
And you know, it was amazing. There are many times you play North Carolina, you say the game really wasn't that important. Mm-hmm. You're on an aircraft carrier. I mean, number one, just imagine that. This ship is so big they could put 41 other courts if they wanted to on that flight deck. But the one thing we've learned, especially hanging out with Tom Izzo, the head coach of Michigan State, he's taken his team to many situations like this. And what you learn when schools participate in events like this, and they can take a little bit of home to the service personnel, you realize how important that is, how big it is to bring home to the troops. And Michigan State does it better than anybody. But at the end of the day, when you go home and you go, you know what? I just broadcast a basketball game on an aircraft carrier. You got to be kidding me. But we did. And I got to shake the president's hand. It was all good. So when we return with more of the Sports Life, we'll begin our celebration for the Memorial Day weekend and our salute to the men and women of the armed forces. But first, this break.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little. But thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto Owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask.
Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you.
Every kid deserves a chance to feel safe, to have their own bed, to be loved and cared for. That's why I love my foster parents. They make me feel like part of the family.
Raise hope and foster dreams for one of 13,000 Michigan children in foster care. Visit michigan.gov/hope for a home or call 855-MICH-KIDS. That's 855-MICH-KIDS. Sponsored by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of uncertainty lurking under your hood. You know the feeling. I know I do. That sudden sinking sensation when you see a check engine light or your car unexpectedly breaks down and you're faced with sky-high repair bills. It's time to shield against unexpected repairs with CarShield. CarShield is America's most trusted auto protection company and has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau. Don't let the fear of a breakdown keep you up at night. Trust the Shield, CarShield, and say goodbye to terrifying repair bills and hello to peace of mind. Your plan also comes with 24/7 roadside assistance, courtesy towing, rental car options, and so much more. Don't wait till it's too late. Call CarShield now before a breakdown. Protect your wallet. Protect your car with CarShield. Get our best protection ever. Call now. You'll thank me later. 800-965-1292. 800-965-1292. That's 800-965-1292.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is the Sports Life.
Roxanne Watson is on a mission.
Hello, how are you doing today?
She wants more people to register as organ, eye, and tissue donors.
Are you an organ donor? Yes, I am. Yay. My goal is to sign up the most people in the United States.
What drives her? Roxanne's own life was saved through the gift of a heart transplant, made possible by an organ donor.
I decided that day that I was going to devote myself to the cause of organ donation and signing people up and honoring my donor by doing that.
Now she's back to health, and she's a powerful force helping to save lives every day through her work. Imagine what you can make possible by leaving behind the gift of life.
8 people can be helped with the major organs, and up to 50 people can be helped with a little bit of everything. And when you think about it that way, that you could help that many people, it's amazing. It really is.
Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. We'll team here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, no doubt this show this week has a military flavor. And one of the things that we've discovered over time is one of the great things about Armed Forces Radio and things like that is a chance to bring home to the overseas military men and women, which is so vitally important. And sometimes that desire to be able to reach home lends itself to a great idea that just really takes off and stays with you. And to talk about such a thing is former Staff Sergeant from the Air Force, Levi Thompson. Levi, thanks for joining us today. And And we've asked Levi to come aboard to talk about this great thing he did. He was in Germany. It's 2010. He's a major Iowa Hawkeye fan, and he was trying to figure out a way to just figure out what the Hawks were doing back home. And Levi, if you could, pick us up from there and talk about how this great idea that's we'll talk about in a second really got going.
Yeah, well, thanks. First off, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it. Back in 2010, I joined the service in 2003. Most of my time, at least half my time, was spent overseas. I was in Korea before I was in Germany, and it was at the time it was extremely hard to get Hawkeye content on social media and stuff like that. And obviously, it was once in a blue moon we get a game on AFN, Armed Forces Network, and you get to catch a game. It seemed like I got to see about 2 a year when I was in the service, so it wasn't very much. Now, obviously, things have changed greatly since I've been in, and now on social media. It's pretty easy to follow any sports team. But back then, it wasn't as easy. So when I knew I was getting out in 2011, and I knew that I was like, well, I could start a page and just kind of direct it towards the military members that were Hawkeye fans, regardless of where they were serving, overseas or even in the States. Just make it a lot easier. And that's kind of how I started. So I created the page Hawkeye Heaven when I got out of service in 2011. And, I wasn't really, I never thought it would take off the way it did, to be honest with you. I was just kind of trying to get out to the military guys and girls that were serving. And the next thing I know, the page kind of blew up and I had a ton of followers, and not just military, but I've always kind of based what I push out, and I would always like to recognize the military men and women that were serving.
Levi, that kind of inspires a couple of questions for me. One being, if you were from 2003 to that 2010 range still touring and overseas, how did you experience and consume the Capital One Bowl where Iowa beat LSU on that Drew Tate Hail Mary?
So that was right when I joined. I was in for about just over a year, just out of basic and tech school in Texas, and then my first duty station was in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I was actually on base when I watched that game in the quarters there in Cheyenne, and I think everybody in the quarters knew there was an Iowa game or something going on because I was screaming when that when that happened.
That's pretty awesome. Well, Levi, I do also want to ask here, too, because you talked about the inspiration at first was helping to get this out to more military members. How many Iowa fans did you come in contact with or were you connected with that were in the military? Like, the number had to be great enough to inspire this idea, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it seemed like everywhere I went, I'd either see a Hawkeye shirt or a Hawkeye hat. You'd see the Tiger Hawk somewhere. And it was just kind of neat. And even when I was in Korea, there was a ton of people that, were Hawkeye fans. I was like, oh, this is cool, And every now and again, like I said, when the game, like when we knew there was going to be a game on Armed Forces Network, we'd all try to get together as Hawkeye fans and watch the games. And that's kind of how it all transpired as far as I was just like, it was so hard to get the content and even know what was going on with them. I was like, well, when I get out, I'm going to start something and see if we can change that.
Levi, I touched on this when we brought you on at the beginning of our little chat here. How big is it for overseas service personnel to be able to reach home?
I think it's awesome. It's just to get a little taste of home every now and again. Before, like when I first started the page, I was really gearing it towards military people, as I said. Every week I'd have them send in like pictures, anybody that was overseas or whatnot, and that just kind of wanted to connect with even just like family members or whatnot to see their photo on a social media page. Back then was a pretty cool deal. They'd send in their like wherever they were stationed at, and just they'd have a Hawkeye shirt on or whatever, and be standing next to a sign that showed kind of where they were at. So that was pretty neat.
Oh, and of course, the title of the page is Hawkeye Heaven. And my question, Levi, was that the original name, or was this an evolution at some point, or what was the inspiration for Hawkeye Heaven to be the title?
That was the original name, so that's never changed. Honestly, it just kind of flowed together well, and that's why I picked that name. There was nothing other than that it sounded good together, and I was like, well, this will get some attention, I think.
Well, and that it has, and as Will had mentioned and you had mentioned, it just kind of continued to grow, and it's up to about 150,000 likes now on Facebook. It's a giant community for Iowa fans. And you said you had no idea that it would become what it became. What were the moments, kind of the checkpoints along the way where you started to realize, oh, we're really on to something here?
Sure, yeah. It just kind of steadily grew, and like back then, I was like, I put up a picture of a military person that would send in their photos or whatnot, and then of course, the family members see it, and they'd share it on their page. So it was kind of like word of mouth, and people would see it, and then that's kind of how I got the word out. And then along the way, obviously, we had the big check mark where we had a big part in the wave. Where the idea of the wave came from Krista Young, and I know I've talked to you guys about this before. And she sent the idea in to Hawkeye Heaven, and then I just kind of pushed it out, asked for the parents that were in the hospital to send in photos of their child overlooking the stadium and stuff like that. And that was a huge, Hawkeye Heaven really took off then. We already had a great following already at that point, but from that point on, it's just doubled in size.
You talk about the Hawkeye Wave. When the first one happened and then it caught on, did it surprise you, Levi, that not only did the Iowa players and coaches wave, but when the game stopped or there was a break in the action, the opposing teams also waved?
Yeah, that's awesome. The more people that do it, I think it's fantastic for those kids that are up there and their families. Just to kind of take a time out from and be a kid instead of having to worry about what's going on.
So, Levi, as we get ready to wrap this up, we've talked about how it's grown. We've talked about how Hawkeye Heaven started. What was the driving force behind it? Where do you go now? What's next?
Just continuing to do what I do. As far as running the page, it's, some days it can be, depending on the sports that are going on, I try to keep up with as many as I can and really just get the information out there still. And I think people still enjoy it. There's a lot of other places to go for information nowadays, but I still think I do a pretty good job at keeping everybody up to date. And it still seems like the following's there. And I see a lot of interaction on the posts I make. So that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Well, Levi, and as Will had said at the beginning of this segment, this show has a military theme to it. It's Memorial Day weekend. We're saluting the troops. So first off, thank you for your service, by the way, and everything you did, Levi. But I do want to ask and get the perspective of a veteran, yourself, Levi. What does this weekend, Memorial Day weekend, mean for you? And when you think back and reflect on your service, what kind of pride do you take in that?
I take a lot of pride in it. For me, things have changed now. I have kids and stuff now, so it's kind of nice. We're going camping on the lake, and we're going to do some boating and camping, just kind of relax and kind of just kick back and hang out with the family and enjoy. I know a lot of people can't do that over Memorial weekend. All the troops that are in the service still, a lot of them are away from their families. So I'm just, now that I'm out of the service, and I've been out for 10 years now plus, it's nice that I can spend time with my family but still take the time and know that there's still people making a ton of sacrifice and serving our country.
Levi Thompson, owner and founder of Hawkeye Heaven and a former staff sergeant in the Air Force. Congratulations for all you've done, what you've accomplished, and I really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. You guys have a great Memorial weekend as well, and call me anytime.
Well, there you go. Some of the thoughts from Levi Thompson, the guy who's making a difference. And when we talk about the Iowa Wave, for those who don't know what that is, overlooking Koenig Stadium in Iowa City is the UI Stead Family Children's Hospital. And what happened in Levi's efforts, among other people, at some point when there's a stoppage in the game, the Iowa football team turns to all the children who are watching through the window, and they wave at them, and the children wave back, and it's a really touching thing. And it's really caught on not only with the Iowa football program, but the programs that come in as well to play the Hawkeyes at Kinnick Stadium. They'll take part as well. So it's a magic thing. And it's amazing. One guy can get you news on the Hawkeyes when it was hard to find. One fellow starts an effort that is heartfelt in the whole nation, the Iowa Wave. So thank you very much, former Staff Sergeant Levi Thompson. Back with more in a moment.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
Here's a real-life story that affects 50% of all of us out there. It's called divorce. If you've gotten divorced and now you're struggling to pay your bills and your credit card debts are completely out of control, you need to call this special debt relief hotline right now. We help people with all kinds of money problems caused by different life challenges, a divorce, a job loss, even heavy medical bills. All these life events can sometimes financially stress you out and cause you to get out of control. We help people get their lives back by showing them ways to consolidate and reduce their debt, in some cases for a fraction of what they owe. If your credit card balances are more than $10,000, call us and learn how to reduce your credit card bills and monthly payments now. Here's our number.
Paid for by Debt.com. Call now, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584. That's 800-810-1584.
That ought to do it. Totally energy efficient.
Oh no, not again. This time, we're getting help.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the battle of energy efficiency improvements. In this corner, Mr. I can save money and do it on my own. And in this corner, Miss Let's Get It Done Right with some help. Fight! Or you could just go to avoidenergydrama.com. From sealing your home to helpful loan options, you'll find all the tips and tools you need to stop wasting energy and stay comfortable. Avoidenergydrama.com. Brought to you by Michigan Saves.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Unlike other health concerns, mental illness is not always easy to see. Depression won't show up on an eye chart, and you can't measure it on your bathroom scale. Sorting out a mental health concern is not something to attempt on your own. You won't find a bipolar disorder by looking at a thermometer. Like many other health conditions, help for mental illness takes professional diagnosis and treatment. Anxiety won't just go away under a stick-on bandage. So the sooner you seek treatment, the better. If you or a loved one has a mental health concern, don't go it alone. Find out what to do. For 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, call 1-800-662-HELP. Learn more at samhsa.gov/support. That's samhsa.gov/support.
And now, please join our players and coaches in honoring America and celebrating its freedom and those who protect it. Joining the teams on the court today is Senior Master Sergeant James Malloy. During his 27 years of service in the Air Force Security Forces, he was awarded the 434th ARW Refueling Wing First Sergeant of the Year and the 927th Air Refueling Wing Senior Non-Commissioned Officer of the Year. James is currently employed by the Michigan Department of Corrections and is active in the Lansing chapter of Team Red, White, and Blue, which enriches veterans' lives with pro-social outreach activities. Master Sergeant Malloy credits his wife, Angela, and his family with his success in the Air Force.
So what you heard there is a way that Michigan State honors veterans before every home basketball game. But MSU, like many of the Big Ten institutions, take time to honor the veterans. And since World War I, more than 81,000 military service members have been unaccounted for. So, in participation with Rolling Thunder Michigan Chapter Number 5, the Michigan State Student Veteran Association, and the ROTC program, Michigan State launched the Military Honor Chairs program. And so behind this initiative is LaRhonda Burley at Michigan State University. And she's the Executive Senior Associate AD for Marketing, Brand, and Revenue Generation. And LaRhonda, welcome to the program. And I guess maybe the first question we have is, when you announced this project, what was the reaction to it?
Yeah, well, first, thank you for having me and for getting that title right. I know it's a bit of a tongue twister there, but appreciate the time today and glad to be with you guys. Whenever we were looking at our schedule for the fall, and we saw that we had a handful of sports contests that were happening around Veterans Day weekend, like, how can we do something that's impactful across Michigan State athletics as a whole and use the platforms of basketball or volleyball, football, et cetera, to raise awareness of our veteran service? So that's how we decided to get the project started.
And so when you did it, what was the reaction to what you were doing? Did people embrace it?
You know, it was really positive. It was something that was well received across our athletics department and our student athletes internally, but also in the community as well. You know, at Michigan State, it's important for us to use our platforms that we have through basketball, football. You know, we really have a big stage to raise awareness for all of our sports. And that was something that we saw the advantage of here with playing a home football game around Veterans Day. I believe we played on November 12th. And so it was something that was on a big stage and people were just really warm to. They really appreciated that we were putting something in our venues that was going to live there beyond just the game, right? Where it's not something that's performative, where we just, wave and smile. It's something that really represents those who have served, who unfortunately aren't here to celebrate with us and have a seat here at our event. So people really did appreciate what it represents.
So when you're in a meeting and you're talking about this, what really got the ball rolling? What really made it happen?
Well, a lot of collaboration. Our facilities operations team, they are really the heartbeat behind all of this. And we look at things that have been done, and we're not the first to install prisoner of war missing in action honor chairs. We're not the first, but we were looking at it and saying, how can we do this at scale? How can we make sure that we're creating these seats in our venues that isn't just in our football stadium? We're not just going to put it at the top of the stadium in a seat that doesn't take away from revenue. We didn't look at it like that. It was really important for these seats to be in locations where people could walk by them, see them, experience them, understand what they mean, have a moment with them, and see that they represent people. This isn't something that we're doing just to say we did it. It is not a check the box. And it's important at Michigan State that everything we do, we know the why behind it, and we do it with intention. And so when we started talking about that internally, and our facilities team and event management really got behind it. Dylan Marinas, Casey Carter were really important in this process. And we identified locations where these seats were visible, but they weren't performative. We didn't want it to just say, hey, look at us, here's what we're doing. And so I really appreciated and respected that. This was one of the first projects I had the opportunity to work on when I became a Spartan. So that really made me excited to be a part of an athletic department that embraced things like this and said, let's do it the right way. And so it was just a lot of collaboration, and it was something important for us. And with, I really appreciate AD Haller supporting us having these in each of our athletic venues. We made a pledge to have these by fall 2023. We just celebrated our military appreciation games for baseball and softball and had Rolling Thunder out there. We actually, they rode their motorcycles around the warning track for baseball. We did something similar at softball. It's important that we customize these for each sport. We don't have to be cookie cutter and just have the same presentation. It has to make sense for the consumer of the sport and the fan. And it's been really great to see our marketing fan engagement team really get behind that as well and do this in a really customized way.
Well, that's certainly special, and to continue it on in the different ways is really a neat thing. But, we played the clip just a little bit ago, and I think it's very evident that Michigan State has always been kind of one of the forefront schools in terms of showing appreciation to the military. We have the Carrier Classic Games, plural, that is now. We have all the different things we're talking about here. As Will mentioned in that clip before, there's always a veteran that is honored before a home basketball game, and a lot of times that comes with some sort of personal relationship relationship. The veteran is chosen because there's a personal relationship. Somebody knows somebody nominated somebody. I'm curious, with this prisoner of war's movement and initiative that you have going here at Michigan State to salute and recognize them, did that have a personal experience or testimony behind it that somebody said, you know what, I've been impacted in this way, my life has, my family has, this should be a good move?
Yeah, it's something that I'm a born and raised Washingtonian. I'm not sure if I mentioned that before, but this was something, being from the area, that in coming out to Michigan, it was something that I actually had the opportunity to experience when I was in D.C. I started early in my career. I was with the then Washington Redskins, now Washington Commanders, and one of the areas under my purview was our military salute platform. And the NFL does a phenomenal job at recognizing our past and current servicemen and women. And so that we actually installed one of these chairs at FedEx Field years ago. And so that was something where, coming out here, how can we, since we are playing right around Veterans Day, and because Michigan State supports our servicemen and women so heavily, how can we do something that's going to touch a lot of people? And, people can choose how they engage with it and what it means to them. And so that's really what sparked the idea and brought it out here. But the way that it was embraced and how our internal campus partners really got behind it was special. And Megan Hogan, our Assistant AD of Marketing and Fan Engagement, was a big part of this as well, and saying, okay, how can we do this at scale? She works very closely as well. You mentioned this a moment ago in our pregame ceremony that we do for men's basketball, where we honor a service member there as well. And something not a lot of people see behind the scenes, because it's important that we honor the service, and it's not just about raising our hand and say, hey guys, look at what we're doing. Not everything is for us to put on social media. Not everything is for us to put on the video board. It's really for us to have those moments that matter with the people who have served. Tom and Lupe Izzo, they have a personalized letter that they give to every person that we honor on court. It's something that's, written and signed by them, and we deliver that to them along, with the jersey that they wear, and we give them their moment. And those are genuine moments, and they deserve that public recognition. But there's also some private gratitude there as well. And, that's important to see. And we have those moments across many initiatives that we have here at Michigan State, whether it's military appreciation, cancer awareness and research support, or whatever it is. It's important that we do it the right way and for the people, and everything is humanized. It's not just about us, having a marketing campaign behind it. And so, this was no different. It was important for us to always be people first in what we did, and work really closely with Rolling Thunder to be careful with the verbiage that we used. Are we representing this the right way? Are we, honoring folks the right way? How much can we evolve the community that has been impacted by service, whether it's the service members themselves or their family, and involve them in the process? So, those things are really important when we're creating these programs, and I'm really grateful that Michigan State has already done so many great things. This was just an opportunity for us to add something else across athletics.
Well, Rhonda, before we let you go, as you look at the Military Honor Chairs campaign, end result, what are you hoping for?
I'm hoping that when folks walk by, whether it's on the concourse of Breslin, and they stop and they read the plaque that, and you mentioned the stats earlier, Will, in the introduction here. They read the plaque to recognize how many folks are still unaccounted for, or they see it across Spartan Stadium, and it's in the south end zone right below the scoreboard, and that was intentional, where they look at it and they might say, hey, what is that? And they have to look it up, and it gives them an opportunity to learn and research. We like it when things provoke questions and provoke thoughts. And so, I'm just hoping it gives a moment to those that that are unfortunately still missing, but also those who are currently serving, and just shows that at Michigan State that we honor and respect all of those folks, and work very closely with our Student Veterans Association on that as well. So I'm hoping it just gives people pause and gives them a moment to stop and think about it.
Well, Rhonda, we appreciate you stopping by for the show today, and I think it's a great initiative, and I salute what Michigan State does, and any other university in this country that takes time to salute the veterans, because they deserve it big time. So appreciate it.
Thank you. You guys have a great day.
So there you go. Some of the thoughts from LaRhonda Burley, who is the Executive Senior Associate Athletic Director at Michigan State University for Marketing, Brand, and Revenue Generation. Well, both of you guys mentioned Coach Izzo a little bit, and of course his wife Lupe. I want to add to this thing. Tom Izzo has been big in supporting the military for a long time. And he sort of backed that up with 2 trips that he went with a group of people to entertain troops, so to speak, in the Middle East. And also, he took his entire basketball team to Germany, to the Ramstein NATO Air Base And his basketball team played Connecticut there in a hangar for the troops. And so at the end of the day, you mentioned the aircraft carrier games, and you throw in the trip to Germany. I mean, Michigan State, with the direction of Tom Izzo, have really done an amazing job to support the troops. And he does it without a lot of fanfare. When he went over to the Middle East, it wasn't like he put up a billboard and said, "Here I go."
Right.
He just kind of went and did his thing, which is kind of what he does.
It's super special. And again, we're talking about a cause and giving back to veterans, and something that we don't necessarily do tremendously well as a society. So hopefully everybody can learn a little bit from Tom Izzo's direction, because, and I'll share a personal anecdote, is, we go around to a lot of these different campuses around the Big Ten, Will, you and I, and we've been to a lot of the different schools. My dad is a Marine veteran and had a chance at the Breslin Center to kind of take him on a tour, walking around, and showed him all the different things. We walked by the Magic Johnson statue. We see the national championship trophies, the Hall of History, all this beautiful, really cool basketball stuff, right? The moment that got him to pause and reflect and stop was passing that prisoner of war's chair. He read the description, the plate, the plaque that was on there, took a moment, soaked it all in, and that ended up being the most emotional moment of the entire tour, and the neatest thing that happened out of the entire experience, which really kind of shows you what this means to those.
Sure does. Back with more of the Sports Life in just a moment.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little, but thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto Owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask.
Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you.
So I graduated last year and got a job. Sweet! But it got boring. I didn't really have a purpose. Then I started volunteering with Community Action. It's a statewide network with 29 agencies across Michigan. Community Action helps people with food, housing, utilities, childcare, senior services, you name it. I found my purpose, helping people, changing lives. Won't you join me? Call 1-855-MI-ACTION or go to MichiganCommunityAction.org. Sponsored by Michigan Community Action and Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
This is a Potter's Field. When people can't pay for their funerals, they are buried here. It is a lonely, desolate place, littered with unmarked headstones. No one visits. No one leaves flowers. But it doesn't have to be that way. For as low as $1 a day, you can ensure your family will have the money to pay your funeral expenses. We offer burial insurance plans that pay up to $30,000. Considering the average funeral costs more than $10,000, that's peace of mind for your family. There are no medical exams, your rates won't increase, and your policy cannot be canceled as long as you make your premium payments. Call now to get approved in minutes and ensure your final resting place is more than just a pauper's grave in a potter's field.
800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. That's 800-562-2407. Paid for by Final Expense Direct.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again?
Alex is just...
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. We'll team in here along with Dalton Shetler. And don't forget, Auto Owners Insurance, simple human sense. Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you. Well, today's Sports Life, as you know by now, is our special Memorial Day presentation. Every year, Memorial Day marks a moment when we take time to honor and mourn those who lost their lives while serving the United States in the U.S. military. A veteran we would like to honor today is Gus Kanakis, a Marine whose parents were Greek immigrants. He served during World War II and fought in the Battle of Okinawa. He would later attend Michigan State University on the GI Bill, lead the East Lansing High School boys basketball team to the 1958 state championship, and would become the head basketball coach of Michigan State in 1969, a position he would hold for 7 seasons. From 1977 to 1998, Gus was an assistant athletic director at MSU before becoming a special assistant to head coach Tom Izzo. Gus was also a fixture on the Michigan State Radio Network, providing commentary for 31 consecutive seasons. On Veterans Day, November 11, 2011, as a way to salute the U.S. military, Michigan State would play North Carolina on the flight deck of an aircraft carrier, the USS Carl Vinson. Something that had never been done before, a basketball game being played on the deck of an aircraft carrier. As part of the MSU Radio Network's 11-11-11 broadcast, Scott Moore provided this glance of Gus Kanakis.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
December 7th, 1941 was the day that life as we knew it in the United States changed. The world had already been at war since 1939, but when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 41, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt declared war in both the Pacific and European theaters. It was a time in which all young men knew that it was their duty to serve this country, and for a young Gus Kanakis, he was as patriotic as they came.
Most of the population was very patriotic at that time, trying to serve the country, to defeat Hitler, and the Japanese invasion really stimulated everybody after Pearl Harbor. So the women, men, everybody, either going to serve in the military or you're going to work in the factories. And so everybody pitched in. And when you were a young person, you watched the movies and stuff. And of course, the Marine Corps had a glorified background, and it just felt the place that I wanted to be. I remember seeing the golden stars on the windows of some of the homes where the people that we knew were killed in service. And I remember when June 6th came, of the invasion of Normandy, I was a senior in high school, and all the churches rang the church bells, to signify that the United States had invaded Europe.
Because of that type of patriotism, Gus and his friend Pat Kane decided that they'd beat the draft and enlist in the Marine Corps in April of 1944. And when they graduated from high school that July, they were immediately sent to boot camp. After 8 weeks of boot camp at Parris Island, Gus was transferred to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina for infantry training. And when that was complete, it was off to Camp Pendleton in San Diego for his final preparations before heading overseas.
We boarded a troop ship as a infantry replacement Marines for the 6th Marine Division, which was beginning to be formulated. Eventually, the 6th Marine Division went to Iwo Jima.
But prior to his departure, at random, Gus was transferred from the infantry to the 3rd Amphibious Corps, 3rd Corps Artillery, supporting the 1st Marine Division. And at first, he wasn't very happy about that transfer.
And I didn't want to lose the buddies I had, and they didn't tell you why or anything. They just line you up and they say, okay, so many by the numbers or what it was, and you go over here, you go over there. But I never knew why. Then, I learned about what was happening in Iwo Jima, and if you're in the infantry and at Iwo Jima, the percentage of your getting wounded or death were pretty prominent. I really would have preferred at the time, because I didn't have enough sense to remain in the infantry.
The transfer eventually saved Gus from the front lines of the war, even though he would eventually be put through some fierce battles. He shipped out of San Diego in December of 1944, skipping from island to island in the South Pacific, receiving more training at the Russell Islands and Guadalcanal. But when 2 United States Marine and 2 Army divisions landed abreast on Okinawa on Easter Sunday, April 1st, 1945, they faced an estimated 155,000 Japanese ground, air, and naval troops. And Gus was among those Marines.
The last chance for them, Japan, and that's when the kamikaze pilots, both at Iwo Jima, but more of them, and you could, we'd see those, and those kamikaze pilots would fly into our ships, and there was they were in a state of frenzy. They were at their last stage.
The invasion of Okinawa resulted in over 100,000 Japanese casualties and 50,000 casualties for the Allies. But from there, he participated in the Japanese occupation of China, and while there, Gus's unit would run guard duty on transportation near the East China Sea from the fall of '45 to February of 1946. Gus then returned to San Diego because of health issues and eventually ended up at St. Albans Hospital on Long Island, New York, to have surgery on some ruptured discs in his back. After rehabbing, he was honorably discharged from the United States Marine Corps.
So it was memorable. It was something I'm very proud today, and particularly have been served my country, but it was more, I was a little bit brainwashed for the U.S. Marine Corps too. I really feel that they are truly a great fighting unit.
Meanwhile, while Gus and his 2 brothers were serving in the military, their widowed mother moved from their home in Mount Morris, New York to Scottville, Michigan to be near family. Because of that move, while Gus was rehabbing from surgery, he applied to college at Michigan State at the suggestion of his brother Mike, a place he'd never previously heard of.
I've heard of U of M and, Wisconsin, those, but where we lived, Big Ten wasn't big in our minds. But the way things worked out, and having come here, and then experiencing my years here at Michigan State and in East Lansing and the Big Ten Conference athletically, and I'm very happy that prevailed.
And the rest, you can say, is history. Gus has since spent a majority of his life at MSU, most notably as the head coach of the basketball team from 1969 to 1976, and as analyst on the Spartan Radio Network for 26 consecutive years. So you can imagine his pride today, being part of this basketball game on the USS Carl Vinson on Veterans Day.
Having this basketball game on 11/11/11, it's kind of nostalgic for me, and puts an emphasis on Veterans Day. And I've really never been one, to participate in a lot of that. But I think this is important, particularly since we're in war in Afghanistan and Iraq. But it was something I'm very proud today, and particularly have been served my country.
A salute to a U.S. Marine, a Michigan State head basketball coach, and an all-around good guy, Gus Kanakis, who passed away in 2019. Back with more in just a moment.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
So I graduated last year and got a job. Sweet! But it got boring. I didn't really have a purpose. Then I started volunteering with Community Action. It's a statewide network with 29 agencies across Michigan. Community Action helps people with food, housing, utilities, childcare, senior services, you name it. I found my purpose, helping people changing lives. Won't you join me? Call 1-855-MI-ACTION or go to MichiganCommunityAction.org. Sponsored by Michigan Community Action and Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
If you have diabetes, listen up. If you have insurance, you can qualify for a continuous glucose monitor. With a CGM, you can continuously track your levels and trends and spend more time in range, significantly lowering your A1C. More importantly, a CGM eliminates the one thing most people with diabetes hate: painful finger sticks. Order your new continuous glucose monitor today. If you use insulin and if you've seen your diabetes care provider within the last 6 months, you may qualify for your own CGM right now. We'll do all the insurance paperwork and deliver your new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost to you. Medicare and most insurances will cover your CGM, so don't wait. Have your insurance handy and call the Aptiva Medical CGM Health Hotline right now.
800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. That's 800-948-6912.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Anybody ready for a burger?
I'm State Fire Marshal Rich Miller, reminding everyone to think safety first when it comes to outdoor grilling, whether it's charcoal or gas. Never overload your grill with food. Excess fat and grease will create large flames. Grill outdoors and never inside or in a garage. Never leave a grill unattended and always keep a fire extinguisher nearby. For more tips on safe grilling, visit the Bureau of Fire Services website at michigan.gov/BFS.
Medicaid and CHIP offer free or low-cost health coverage for children and teens. Hospital and doctor visits, prescriptions, shots, and more are covered. That's peace of mind for parents if a child is sick or gets injured. And parents may now be eligible for Medicaid too, even if they've applied in the past. Enrollment is always open. Visit InsureKidsNow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
And welcome back for more of The Sports Life. Will Team in here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, we've had what I think is a meaningful show as we celebrate the Memorial Day weekend and salute the men and women of the armed services. And with that, it is now time for our parting shots. So, Mr. Shetler, what do you got?
Well, and by the way, if you missed any of this meaningful show, make sure you check us out at Sports Life Now on Twitter or X. That's again at Sports Life Now. We have all the individual pieces posted, and you can actually hear the entire show back once again if you'd like to as well. I'm going to go a little bit away from the Memorial Day theme for this one. My parting shot's actually going to kind of go 360, a full circle back to the beginning of the show where we heard that Michigan State made the Big Ten baseball tournament, right, with the walk-off against Minnesota. Well, while they were out there in Omaha, their ace, Joseph Gerwoff, threw a couple more strikeouts to give him 100-plus for the season. He becomes just the 5th Spartan pitcher ever to record 100-plus strikeouts. He's the first since 2002, and he was also named Big Ten Pitcher of the Year, and that's only the 2nd Spartan ever to take home those awards. So Joseph Gerwoff gets a nice hat tip from us here on The Sports Life.
And deservedly so. I'm going to go back to the Memorial Day theme that we've had so far on this show. In the College Football Hall of Fame, 14 members have lost their lives serving our country. Probably the most notable, Now Kinnick from Iowa, Heisman Trophy winner. He passed in World War II. And the most recent, Pat Tillman from Arizona State. He lost his life serving the country in the war in Afghanistan. So I salute all of those, as we should every day of the year. And with that, that is a wrap for our show, and we hope everybody has a great Memorial Day weekend. So, as always, you can find us wherever you find your podcasts like SoundCloud, Spotify, and Apple. And make sure you check us out and hit subscribe. As always, thanks to the Big Ten Network. And The Sports Life is produced by Dalton Shetler. Our executive producer is Wendy Hart. So on behalf of Dalton Shetler, I'm Will Tiemann, and thanks for your time.